911.
Yes, we are on the highway between Boyd's Ranch and Channing, and there's been a real bad wreck. The gentleman says his wife is in the car, and he thinks she didn't make it.
Yes, 75 Fallfield. There's a big accident. Semi trucks, cars, they all hit each other.
Yeah, I'm calling to report an auto accident, 23 northbound. Apparently it just happened. There's vehicles all over the place.
Okay, yeah, we have.
Ironic, isn't it? A quick trip to the store, to work and back, to pick up the kids. Ironic, because it all seems so familiar, so comfortable, so routine. Most of the time we drive off with barely a second thought. We really do feel at home in our cars. And maybe therein lurks the danger. It is routine. It is familiar. We eat while we drive, rummage through the glove compartment, exceed the speed limit, talk on the cell phone. And since most excursions do end without harm, those negative behaviors are often reinforced. It gets easy to forget the dangers, that a 1.5 tons of steel and glass hurtling down the road can be literally an accident waiting to happen. It's ironic, then, that this most familiar of daily tasks is, for most of us, the most dangerous activity we'll undertake today.
I think most people don't realize a traffic collision or a traffic fatality can be visited on them at any time. I mean, we're a driving community and a driving culture.
Sadly, this irony is underscored by the sheer numbers of human loss and heartache. In 2011, there were over 32,000 traffic fatalities in the United States. And traffic accidents are the #1 killer of children and young adults in this country. Add to that over 2 million motor vehicle injuries with an economic cost of $300 billion. And after 6 years of steady decline, initial figures indicate a 7.1% increase in traffic fatalities for 2012. But what do those numbers really mean? They register with us at some level. We can say to ourselves, too bad for that person or that family, and then move on. But for at least a brief moment, place yourself, your family, or a friend in that story or that stat column. What is the human impact behind that accident? Remember that 90 a day number mentioned earlier? That's 90 devastated families per day, and 90 hastily prepared, heartbreaking funerals per day, every day.
It's our responsibility at the coroner's office to notify the next of kin. And certainly this is one of the most devastating parts of this job. We know that when we visit with the next of kin, that it's going to be a life-changing event for them. And it certainly has some impact on the coroner's office personnel that have to make that notification. Typically, it's going to be early in the morning, and we're going to show up at your house, and we're going to knock on the door, and there's going to be a realization in our first encounter that something has happened tragically. And we know that for families to go tell them that their child's been killed in a traffic fatality or their husband or wife's been killed in a traffic fatality, that it's going to turn their world upside down.
Certainly, it's a heartbreaking reality that we don't like to think about. And even for professionals who deal with these circumstances, repetition doesn't make the task any easier.
I would say over the past 15 years, I've had to make well over 100 notifications of family members in this county, to include the previous coroner in the traffic fatality and loss of her son. And one thing it never does is get easier. In fact, we still use the White Cross program to indicate traffic fatalities in Aiken County, and I can tell you today that every time I go by them, I'm reminded of the person that was involved in that fatality.
Unfortunately, when it comes to traffic injuries and fatalities, there is no do-over. Better to not go there at all. A few preventative steps may mean the difference between life and death for you or a loved one. First, understand that driving is a privilege that requires your complete focus. Even at moderate speeds, the position and location of your vehicle on the road and in relation to other vehicles changes instantaneously. Even a collision at a mere 35 miles per hour is more brutal than you might think. Distracted driving, be it through cell phone use, texting, grooming, eating, or talking to other passengers, is a growing cause of accidents. For example, sending or receiving a text takes a driver's eyes from the road for an average of 4.6 seconds, the equivalent at 55 miles per hour of driving the length of an entire football field blind. And should an accident occur, your best friend really is your seatbelt.
Most often, probably in 60% of the cases, the person is not wearing a seatbelt. And if you're not using your first line of defense, you're subject to be ejected from the vehicle, either out the windshield, out the side windows, or out the back window.
One of the most preventable tragedies are accidents caused by DUI. In 2011, alcohol-impaired drivers accounted for 31% of all traffic fatalities.
Wear your seatbelt, obey the speed limits, and certainly don't drink and drive. One of the #1 contributors of traffic fatalities in the United States.
Finally, remember to be a defensive driver. Watch out for other drivers. Don't automatically assume their behavior will be predictable. A legal right-of-way may not be granted to you by another driver who ignores that stop sign. Unfortunately, our local area has already experienced a heavy human toll. Though Aiken County has seen improvement in traffic fatalities in recent years, South Carolina ranks 6th in the nation in traffic deaths per 100,000 residents. And in Georgia, Richmond County has seen traffic fatalities jump from 19 in 2010 to 44 in 2012, a 131% increase. In cooperation with the Richmond County Sheriff's Office, the Governor's Office of Highway Safety has launched Operation Thunder. This 3-month initiative will focus law enforcement resources in the county to reduce mounting highway deaths and serious injuries. In the final analysis, beyond the stats and numbers, is the protection of lives, your life, and the lives of those you love. We go to great lengths to support and care for those around us. Don't let a moment's selfish distraction or cell phone call erase all you do for them. The next time you enter a motor vehicle, take a moment to reflect on your actions and your responsibilities. Allow the possible negative consequences to motivate a positive change in driving habits. Driving should never become so routine that we lose attention and focus on the task at hand. Because chances are, it will be the most dangerous thing you'll do today.
Recognize that the life you take may be a relative of yours, maybe a coworker, maybe a friend. And certainly, none of us want to visit trauma or tragedy onto a family's life.
I'm on the line with Richland trying to find out if the vehicle was stopped or